Broadcast Center. House Minority Leader Patricia Morgan.
Hi, Kate.
Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a busy few days, especially for the Republicans.
Yes, it has been.
How much have you been asked about Charlottesville and the response by President Trump, and what's your response been?
You know, the media has asked me basically today. It's the first time I've heard from them. But what is my response to
Yeah.
that?
So when you heard President Trump's statement yesterday, basically saying there were good people out in that crowd, and the reaction from folks of him again, basically allowing for the white supremacist to be there. What was your response when you heard what he said yesterday?
You know, I actually went to college at Kent State University during the late 60s and early 70s. So I have seen America at its worst. That's when we had the race riots and all the things around Vietnam. It was a terrible time for our country. We have to have, I had thought over the last 40 years that we had made great progress in race relations, that we had left that past behind us. And it's really distressing to me that it seems to be coming back. We have to have a no-tolerance policy for racism and these kinds of groups that are white supremacists and bigots, just no-tolerance policy. As far as President Trump, I don't believe he's a racist. I don't think he's a hateful man. There's nothing in his life that makes me think that he is there. He's that kind of person. But he needs to choose his words more carefully because he is the President of the United States, and everything he says is important.
So you said, a zero tolerance policy. Do you think his statement yesterday was being tolerant, saying that there are folks out there who just wanted to remove the statue, that he was, again, we had someone in here earlier saying it was the dog whistle to the white supremacists and the neo-Nazis and the KKK, that they can go out?
You know, I can't speak for what he meant, but I can speak for what I mean. And I mean zero tolerance for these kinds of hateful groups. Zero tolerance. Our country has been there. We've moved past it, and we need to continue to move past it.
You're here in the studio. About a month ago, you announced that you were maybe thinking of exploring a run for governor. Yes. It's hard to believe it was just a month ago. Where have you been since that past month? I want to go back from national politics to local because, again, I'm sure it's your focal point at this time. What have conversations been with people, and where have things been since you made this announcement?
So I got the results of my first poll, and they're favorable. I'm very happy with them, so I'm raising money.
So you're out there raising money. What are next steps? When would you make a formal announcement?
Sometime in the fall, probably. The fundraising is going well. I'm being well received. So at this point, it's just really, the governor has, $2.6 million already. So I'm coming to this late. I just started a month ago. But it really is going well. So I'm encouraged. I'm moving forward.
Moving forward, we've seen a lot coming from the RGA, obviously 18 being the cycle, and pointing out things about the Raimondo administration. Most recently, you had statements on DCYF, what is going on in a multitude of levels. It's just one of many issues I want to ask you about. But how big of an issue will that be here in 18?
That whole thing at DCYF, what's happening there is distressing. I think you must have read the Providence Journal this Sunday, and for me it was just heartbreaking. These kids are not discarded children. They are Rhode Island children. Their families have proven themselves unable to take care of these kids for a multitude of reasons. So they come to DCYF, which was created to protect them. And DCYF is failing them too. It's just inexcusable. It's just inexcusable. And should it be a political issue? No. It should be about making sure that these kids are safe, that they're protected, that they have some regularity, some guidance, some protection, parents in their lives. I looked at the numbers, and we're spending about $150,000 per child. And then they say, well, we can't find foster families for them. Certainly, at $150,000 per child, we can find foster families who would be the parents to these kids. It shouldn't be this group homes who have questionable hiring practices. The supervision must be lax. I mean, the governor, I think it's incumbent upon her, seriously, to hold people accountable, to get those people in her office on a weekly basis, to put time, energy in, focus, because no child should have to die or be used for prostitution or given drugs. This is just wrong. There are children.
And we've seen, this is just one of the many issues at DCYF. I mean, we've seen hearings that took place in the spring, again, about the deaths of small children. We've also seen the issue at the training school, again, under the umbrella of DCYF. I think the talk now is to do a report, but...
It's not just a report, it's about leadership and accountability. It really is. You know, I think of Rudy Giuliani down in New York City. The city was in chaos. And he came in and he provided that leadership and he got that city back. He brought it back. We can do that for DCYF here in Rhode Island. It just needs attention, leadership, accountability. We can do it, and we should do it.
Apart from DCYF, other issues, I want to talk with you about, economic policy. You know, there have been a lot of critiques of the Commerce Corporation. We've talked about it here. How would your economic, and especially pertaining to the Commerce Corporation, talk with us a little bit about the difference that would be under a Morgan administration?
You know, I'm not in favor of a lot of the corporate welfare that's going on. We're just kind of giving out money for a small amount of jobs. I don't think it's real fruitful. It's not that tax incentives don't have a place, but that seems to be all we're doing here. And I think the problem with Rhode Island is that we really have a bad foundation. For decades, we've been putting more and more bad policies on our economic climate. So we have a bad legal environment. Our electricity rates, another thing that we just heard about, is going up. That's really hard on us who live in our homes. It's hard on businesses too. They're major users of electricity. We have, property taxes and tangible personal property taxes, which I mean, what are they, the fifth highest, third highest in the country? They're up there. That hurts our economic climate. They hurt people, they hurt businesses. Quite frankly, we need both. Businesses give people jobs, and the people need the jobs.
Going to bring you a little closer here so you don't scoot out. I've been told here, bring the minority
my
a little bit
scoot
closer.
Now, yeah, I move a little bit.
I know you've got money to raise, but we're going to take another 5 minutes or so.
So, I've been saying it for a long time, we really need to reform the things that we do wrong in Rhode Island. We need to eliminate bad policies, bad regulations. We need to reform our economic climate. It's like, if you're a salesperson, even the best salesperson can't sell a bad product. We need a good product. And Rhode Island has a lot to love. It has good people, but we really need to do better at removing the things that are just weights on our businesses and on our folks.
So I want to go back a little bit to the poll you mentioned. What were the questions that you asked folk? Were they issue-based, and did you ask them about particular candidates, about how you stack up against the other potential candidates in the race?
Both.
Okay. Well, give us a little, what did you ask folks? What did you want to know?
You know what? I know you want to know, but later when I'm ready to announce, I'll let you all know.
So you're saying you're going to release the poll results?
I was really happy with the results.
And they will be released when you make an announcement for?
At least some of them will, yes.
So you can't tell us, were you leading the pack? I mean, we know it's, potentially Mayor Fung. We know it's potentially former Rep. Joe Trillo. Businessman
very well.
Gio Feroci had indicated he is interested in as well. Was it just that four?
No.
You had other names out there as well.
Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna leave us hanging here.
I'm gonna leave you hanging right now.
Well, maybe
That's
I'll
right.
bring you back in to talk
Now's
about
not
these.
the time. The time will come. But I was really encouraged by it.
And so what now? As you said, you're out there raising money. Of course, we're looking towards September and the General Assembly after what happened, after the breakdown with the budget, about going up to kind of fix some sort of the things that were out there. And you've had a lot to say. There's been some attention paid to some of the issues, and you have expressed some concerns about some costs associated with some outstanding items.
Well, I know for certain two bills are coming up, the mandatory leave bill and the gun bill, both of which I oppose. For the mandatory leave bill, honestly, it's going to hurt small businesses again. I think any businessman that can give that would. And for me, it's more about, let's make sure people have jobs. Let's make sure the business can thrive. If they thrive, they're going to give raises to their employees. I think employees would rather have the money in their paychecks. They can figure out what to do with it. The anti-gun bill, I know it's being sold as a domestic abuse bill. It's not. I have no problem at all, and I don't think anybody does, in taking guns away from violent people, from criminals, from the mentally ill. But this goes too far because it's taking guns away, potentially taking guns away from law-abiding Rhode Islanders. We have a system now where judges have discretion. I think, listen, we put those judges there for a reason. They're smart folks. They can figure out. They see this all day long in family court. So I'm against both, and I encourage every one of your viewers to call their representatives and their senators and to tell them they oppose them. What else is on the table? I think there were other bills of less magnitude, perhaps, but I know there's one for Central Coventry Fire District, one of in my district. It was charter changes. It's a town bill. Charter changes that the folks of that district are asking because they've made incredible progress at straightening out their district, and they want to make sure it lasts into the future. So that's another one that I hope will pass.
So we're going to continue to keep an eye on what's happening here in September back at the Assembly. Wanted to ask you again, national to local, is there anything we haven't hit upon while you're in here today? It's been a few weeks, and it's certainly been since you said you indicated you were thinking of running for governor. I'm not going to be able to wrestle out anything from the poll from you, clearly.
No.
Sample size?
500. But, all right, so one of the things that I think was interesting is the Center for Freedom and Prosperity actually quantified all of the bills that Democrats, or not all the bills, just kind of the bigger bills that Democrats had introduced this year. And now we know why they're called tax and spend Democrats. Because our budget right now is $9.2 billion, which equates to $9,200 for every man, woman, and child in Rhode Island. If they had gotten all of their bills passed, they would have added another $6 billion to our budget, bringing it up to $15.2 billion, or $15,200 for every man, woman, and child. Now, if you're a family of four, that's $60,000, a little over $60,000. Well, that's the average household income in Rhode Island. So government would be consuming everything that people made.
I saw that report.
And it is not a happy report. One of the things that we have to start doing is not just looking at, oh, that's a nice thing to spend money on, like free tuition or whatever, but what it costs. And it's, yes, you're going to help these people over here, but you're going to hurt them. And we have to make sure that we aren't hurting the prosperous and the productive. Right now, we have the largest demographic leaving Rhode Island is not retirees. It is the 25 to 55-year-olds, 45-year-olds. Those are our working age folks. And that's because it's getting too hard for them to live in Rhode Island. And one of the reasons is this tax and spend mentality. We've got to stop it.
So I'm sure that's going to be a major talking point in the campaign trail.
Well,
if I can look into my crystal ball here.
It's just something that, you have to understand. You know, we always say that, well, we're fixing this problem, we're fixing that problem. But at the same time we're doing that, we're creating another problem for people who are working. I mean, people want their take-home pay. They want the cost of living to be down. And you can't do that if you're constantly increasing the cost of government. By the way, that $60,000 is only for state government. You're not even adding municipal government. It's a lot.
Well, I appreciate your coming in to, again, walk through the multitude of issues I wanted to
Yes,
talk with you
there's a
about
lot
today.
out there.
There's a lot. We'll have you back in when we want to talk about poll results and campaign announcements, I'm sure. But as I said, I know you want to get out the door, get on the phone.
Get on the phone. We are, the Assembly is coming in on September 19th. If you don't like the bills that are there, you need to call. You need to call your representative, your senator now, and tell them no.
Well, Minority Leader Pat Morgan, I appreciate your coming in today. We'll talk soon. We'll let you go off to the races.
Thank you, Kate.
Okay.
Be well.
Thank you. House Minority Leader Patricia Morgan in studio. Last time we had her in was before she had indicated, now this was about a month ago, that she is potentially exploring a run for governor. Sounds like she's moved kind of down that path quite quickly, saying she was in the field polling, would not, despite my efforts, divulge what the results of those polls were, but she said that she would probably release some of the information when she makes an announcement in the fall. So take a look. We'll probably be reporting more from Patricia Morgan about the 2018 gubernatorial election here in Rhode Island. So appreciate Patricia Morgan, the House Minority Leader, coming in here to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center.